Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight on episode 17, season 5 of the Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live every Wednesday throughout the season. Evening, Richie. Well, I went into the weekend full of optimism, but after a shocking tipping round and a heartbreaking Warriors loss, it kind of soured the weekend for me. But how are you, and how did your weekend end up?
Hey Brad, I'm well. I'm well personally, but yeah, the Warriors game did break me a little bit, like it did you as well. But other than that, I'm doing good, mate. I hope you're doing well, and nice to have Paul back in the background too.
Yeah, Paul's finally back from his holiday, being sick, if we use the quotes, I guess. And see Simon's here, evening Simon. So yeah, while we're here live on Wednesdays at 8 p.m, you can also catch our show at your convenience on iHeartRadio and Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of the round 15 matches. We'll then stop and answer some questions from you guys, as well as some questions we've got for each other. We'll then preview round 16 and discuss who we're picking before ending the night with a quick recap of Super League. So remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show. And Richie, we may as well jump straight into it.
Sounds good.
After our 3-hour show last week, I tried to cut down the news a little bit, but there's still a chunk to get through. But we talked about it briefly last week. That last round was the Beanies for Brain Cancer round. The Mark Hughes Foundation announced that they raised $3.1 million last week. So that's fantastic news for them.
Great. Yeah.
I tried to find a beanie at Mount Smart, Mark Hughes beanie, couldn't find one. So I didn't contribute. But I might next year. I might look into just buying one online when they go for sale to add another beanie to the rotation. But yeah, great news, and hopefully that money can do some wonders for the research they're doing. We'll move on, unless you want to add anything else.
No, move on, mate.
So Luke Keary, we talked a few weeks ago that he was hanging up the boots at the end of the year. There's rumours now that he's changed his mind and he's going to pull the boots back on and sign with the Catalan Dragons in the Super League. What do you reckon? I think it's not a bad working holiday, I guess, for him. I've got no. The only time I have concerns with it is if they play the retirement card and then end up signing with another NRL team, and it's a way to get out of your contract.
Pengai Junior.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm more than happy to see him go another round if he wants to, and in a competition that's probably not going to be as physical for him as the NRL, which will help him with his head knocks.
It's a nice sweet swan song for him in the south of France. It's not a bad place to change up your environment, and they normally do quite well as well. So I'm sure footy wise he'll enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. And see, Simon said the Dolphins rugby league team have a documentary on TVNZ Plus. I didn't know that. So if you're interested, go check it out. I'll go have a look at it as well. Next bit of news. I'm sure, I don't know if you did, but I'm sure a lot of Warriors fans were watching the Monday report with Graham Ellerslie with a keen eye. No mention of the Warriors, unfortunately. But he did come out and admit that Olukuatu was awarded a try incorrectly against the Dragons. Yep. I've got his quote here. He said, "In our view, based on the way we are ruled on these in previous cases, this try should have been overturned and not upheld." So it was one of the obstruction ones that the Warriors are good at nailing. But were you surprised that there was no discussion about any of the calls in the Warriors game, or is it just part of the course now?
Yeah, a little. I didn't actually catch his weekly address. There's probably a couple of calls in there he could have looked at, but clearly not. Anyways, I mean, with regards to the topic, Olukuatu's try, I believe it was Ben Trebojevic, I think, impeded a possible defender from getting out wide.
Yeah.
which by the letter of the law, yeah, obstruction. So, um, yeah, again, I hardly ever watch his weekly segment because I don't get the point of it. But yeah,
Yeah, the only one worries related before we move on that I was interested in hearing was the moment where Jazz Tavanga's try was denied, but then they went back a couple of plays and awarded a penalty to the Storm, which isn't usually something they do in the NRL, where they backtrack and make a decision on a previous indiscretion. So I was wanting to see if that's something they're deciding to implement more now, or if that was just a one in a blue moon type of situation.
because it was us.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it was just basically talking about the Dragons Seagulls game. His thing, bit of a waste of an hour of my time, but it is what it is. Moving on, Lachlan Galvin. It won't be a standoff show without a segment about the Tigers. He's apparently committed to his future with the Tigers now after his repeated request for release in the past few weeks. He's also responded to news that he was saying he can't wait to leave in the changing sheds after their loss a few weeks back, saying they were complete lies and he'd never do that. And then the Tiger CEO had a few shots at 360 after all of that as well, saying like they're just making stuff up and trying to negatively affect what they're trying to do as the Tigers to get back into relevance. What's your take on that? I think it's the best decision for Galvin to stick there, as I said at length. He's in a position where he won't be in that type of playing position at any other club in the NRL. He would be playing New South Wales Cup or Queensland Cup if he went to any other team. So he's got a good shot of getting first grade experience with the Tigers, in my opinion. So it's good that he seems to be committed. It's only I think another 2 years on his contract or something. So it's not like if it doesn't work out, he's stuck there for the next 5 years.
Yeah, time is very much on his side. He's a very young man, and I think it's good that he will end up showing a bit of loyalty to benching the Tigers, who gave him his chance when he's still young enough to be playing. Most people at 18 years old don't get a crack at first grade, so new people to arrive and hopefully grow with the club.
Yeah, and Jacko said shots at 360 show, really, are they that highly regarded? Surely it's a comedy show. A lot of people seem to watch it over there. I've dipped since Braithen Astor took over. I used to watch it every night. And yeah, it's. I think it's probably more shot at Buzz, because Buzz was the one driving up all the news and all the innuendo about the fracturedness of the Tigers in the camp, because he obviously still writes for the papers and whatnot as well. But good news for the Tigers. Leichhardt Oval has officially received $40 million to fund upgrades from the federal and state governments. They had another game there in the weekend and another win. So I know there's been talk about them not that happy about playing at Leichhardt anymore, but it seems to be working this year. So it'd be good to see that stadium get some upgrades and still be a stadium they use. But you got any thoughts? I know you were happy to see Leichhardt still get another lease of life.
Yeah, very much so. I think we did speak about it maybe a couple of episodes ago. Yeah, these suburban grounds, they're special to rugby league. So pour a bit of money into it and give it a new lease of life is a good thing.
Yeah. And there were also some rumours filtering out last week and this week that the Roosters are going to be looking at offloading Brandon Smith at the end of the year, and that they'll even be willing to pay a portion of his salary. Trent Robertson has come out and said that he's backing Brandon Smith long-term with his side. So I guess time will tell. We always know about the CEO curse when they have the backing of the coach. Is it going to be a coach curse when the coach comes out and says he backs one of the boys? Brandon Smith also came out because there were more rumors that potentially he would be ending up at the Rabbitohs, and he basically said no, he's with the Roosters, and that's where he's going to stay. So, what do you reckon? Do you think it's all with there's any chance of him being shown the door, or?
Sometimes when there's smoke, there's fire, but who knows, mate? There were all sorts of rumors flying around, and yeah, I don't know. Instead of speculating on it, just let it play out, and time will tell. Like you said.
Come on, we've got to speculate. Otherwise, what will we talk about? Next bit of news, Samoa's announced that they've got a 2-game series against England in Wigan and Leeds on October 27th and November 2nd, which is good. It's good to see them still, pushing to play internationals. So, yeah, very happy with that. You got any thoughts on that? I know Samoa's your team, mate.
Yeah, my second team. Yeah, no, that's great. They built a bit of a rivalry over the last World Cup as well, where England spanked them in the first game, and then Samoa came and pipped them in the semi-final. So there's a bit of history building up there now. So I think it's awesome, and I'll definitely be watching.
Yeah, as long as Sky actually gives us the matches as well, that would be good.
Yeah, true, very true.
I've seen no news about the internationals and viewer if they're going to have it on. They did last year, so I'm hoping they do it again. I know they're cutting costs in some areas, but fingers crossed. I always love watching the international footy. So happy that it's now officially confirmed, because there was talks. I know Simon's also said that it's been discussed for the last couple of years. I think we talked when they did that big. It was last year sometime on one of our shows. They did the big presentation of how they envision international rugby, and this was one of the things they had on the list. So just seeing that it's actually got a stadium and a date now is just good. So we'll move on. This one was a bit interesting. I was going to bring it up last week, but to be honest, I completely forgot. But there's talks that Perth have overtaken Papua New Guinea in a bid for the NRL's 18th side, with Papua New Guinea being moved back to being the 19th side. The North Sydney Bears are still willing to jump in bed with whichever team gets picked. However, the Perth bid boss, Peter Cummings, has actually come out and said he would rather enter the NRL alone, as he said the history of the North Sydney Bears or the Newton Jets, who are another old team that want to try to get back in. He said their history doesn't really have any relevance to Perth. So he would rather just do it themselves. But what's your take on PNG getting pulled back a bit?
I agree with his sentiments there, though. It would be cool for a bit of nostalgia to see a Bears team or something like that. But also, if Perth were to enter the league, rugby league out on the West Coast is not really. It's not really the Bears, is it? It would just the Bears is North Sydney, so I'm supportive of Perth getting in a team and tapping into that market. I suppose it probably might be a little easier logistically to make happen than a Papua New Guinea team. Hey, maybe not. Maybe if Papua New Guinea's based in Aussie, and then the time difference of Perth, but yeah,
it gives them.
I think it'd be cool to see. I think it'd be cool to see rugby league back out on the West Coast.
Yeah, I think it gives them another time slot. It makes
true.
Like you can tap another market in that as well. I think Perth makes more sense in the short term. Papua New Guinea, I think, could be a good thing long term. But there's a lot of when they kind of said that they were firming up to be the favourites. There were so many questions from everyone, not necessarily negatively, but more questions on how it was going to work. Are they going to be based in Papua New Guinea? Are they going to be based in Cairns? what are they going to do? So I think there's a lot of work in the background that needs to be done before you could consider them to come in. And then coaching. I know Wayne Bennett kind of said he'd be happy to coach the next team that comes up, but he's got a contract now, so he's not going to be there. I don't know. It's going to be tough. I think Perth is the way to go right now, so I'm happy. But next week we might be talking about how it's Papua New Guinea again. Time will tell. Or NZ. So we'll move on. The Eels coaching recruitment strategy. Apparently, they've cut their options down to just Josh Hannay and Jason Riles. It's very different. At the beginning of the week, everyone was saying that Trent Barrett was the dead set favourite, and now it sounds like he's not even in the short list anymore. Wise decision from Parramatta there, in my opinion. But I don't know who I could pick out of the two. I think I'm still leaning towards Riles. I saw him in the weekend, actually. He still looks in good nick. He could probably play for them as well, be a player coach.
Oh, was he one part of the old boys at the game?
He's still working coaching-wise as well with the Storm at the moment too.
Yeah, he is too. I just noticed they had
their old boys day,
They had all the old boys in the tunnel.
Yeah, they all went out on the field before the game started as well.
Yeah.
But who have you got a horse in the race, or do you not really care?
No, I don't. But I think Riles would be a good choice based off his raps. He's got big raps on him as an up and coming coach. I think Josh Hannay does as well. So I don't care either way, but probably as long as it's not Trent Barrett. That would be the worst of the three options.
Yeah, and I saw Jacko made a comment about Christchurch being the next team. I think Christchurch is going to be the 20th team because that's the goal. They want 20 teams. I think it's going to be either Perth or PNG. Then whoever doesn't get the 18th, they'll be the 19th. Christchurch will be the 20th. So I still think they're going to get a second New Zealand team. I just don't think that's going to be the next team. In my opinion. But yeah, be great. I'd love to see at least there'll be less Kiwis playing in the Aussie teams if there's a second New Zealand team. But we're going to have to wait and see. It seems to be whatever team pops into Peter V'landys' mind in the morning is the team that gets the nod.
True.
So it depends on his mood, I think. So we'll move on. Rabbits are rumoured to be looking at signing Jack de Belin from the Dragons. Would you pick him up? I feel like they could use that money elsewhere, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe a little bit surplus to requirements if they were to pick up someone like de Belin. But yeah, I'm neither here nor there on it. It'd be a decent enough signing. I think he still has a little bit of juice left in the tank, but I don't know that would make the Rabbitohs significantly better.
No. And Jacko's mentioned the signing for the Dragons, which we'll discuss a bit more in the signings news. But that was in my rumours, but it's basically official now. So before we get into the Origin teams, I had one more, which was Ivan Cleary. Got a bit chatty this week. He stated that NRL need to look into the length of the season as a potential reason for the increased injuries this year. So he's a great coach, great scholar. He's figuring out all the obvious stuff right now. We talked about this last week, Matt, so he might have been watching.
Yeah,
we don't know. I still think it's going to come down once there's 20 teams. I think there'll be 20 rounds. You play everyone once. So. And then, I think the way they'll do it, if it was me, it's 20 teams, 20 rounds. They still want their Origin in the middle, and I think you just that's when you do your buys for all the teams. How that's going to work, I don't know, because I know they want television deals, but 20 teams, and if you're trying to put buys in for everybody, even if it's just 2, we'll still spread it out too far.
Yeah.
Still might not be too bad if you just made everyone play each other once.
I like the fairness of it, doing it that
Yeah.
way, and each team alternates the home and away. You know,
Yeah,
in alternate years.
this year you
Yeah,
play at home, next year you play away.
exactly right. And you don't get the case of some teams get to play the lesser sides twice in a year, and it just seems fair having everyone play each other once, as well as
Yeah,
shortening the season a bit, which is good.
yeah, and you have some teams. Yeah, as you said, there might be like say the Broncos, they play the Panthers once, and then they play the Tigers twice, and
Yeah,
then you might have, say, we'll go with the Dragons, a team in the middle. They might get to play the Tigers once, and then they have to play the Panthers twice. There's no rhyme or reason on who you get twice.
yeah,
It's never made sense to me, but I always try to see how much trouble the Warriors get in by how many top teams they're playing twice. And they'll do it. If they like the Warriors, I'll bring them back. They'll play the Panthers twice. One will be a home game in Magic Round, and the other one will be in Penrith. So they never play them in New Zealand. It's that type of deal.
yeah.
That's not the case this season, thankfully. But what do you reckon? What do you reckon, Paul?
I think you're dreaming. At the moment, they play 24 games a year. To drop that down to 19, losing 5 games. I'm sorry, but there's no way you're going to lose that kind of cash in gate receipts and TV. Sorry, but I get where you're coming from, but I can't see them dropping 5 games a season.
Come on, Paul. We've got to bring
We
logic
like
into it.
we like to dream. We like to dream.
Just trying to make it easier for all the
You
teams.
are right. You are completely right. But yeah,
Yeah. They'd suck all the juice out of the players they can if it meant more money in the wallets. We know that. It'll end up being a 12-month competition. It'll be year round. But yeah, that was it for the news. So we had State of Origin teams announced. A couple of surprises. So I let you announce your team first, so I'm going to go this time. I'll announce the Queensland team. So we've got Reece Walsh at fullback. The wingers are Xavier Coates and Murray Talangi. The halves are Valentine Holmes and the Hammer. In the halves, we've got Tom Dearden and DCE. Front row, Ruben Cotter, Ben Hunt, Lindsay Collins. Then second row, we've got Jaden Sewer and Jeremiah Nanai. And then lock, we've got Patrick Carrigan, with the bench being Harry Grant, I always get his name wrong. The Titans guy, mate. Fodaweka, thank you. Kafusi, Kirk Capewell from the Warriors, Dane Gagai, Hylam Lukey, and Trent Lalero. Thoughts on the Queensland side? We've discussed it quite a bit this week and before we went on the air. But surprised with Kirk Capewell. I know Billy Slater said Kirk Capewell's come in for Selwyn Cobbo. Cobbo's got an injury apparently, and he trusts Kirk Capewell from what he's done in the past. So I get that, but he hasn't really played. Hasn't really played a lot of games and not a lot of good games for the Warriors.
Yeah.
So it is a bit surprising. That was the only surprise for me for Queensland. But yeah, you got any surprises as well?
That's the biggest surprise, Kurt Capewell. Cobbo probably is hurt. His pride's probably hurt because he dropped the ball like 12 times on the weekend. But I'm surprised that Kurt Capewell's come in and again, David Feeder doesn't get a look in. I feel like he should feature somewhere, but other than that, we know this team's going to perform well anyway.
Yeah. And your New South Wales team?
All right. This is the team that's going to win game 2. Dylan Edwards at fullback gets his chance this time, hopefully. Wingers Brian To'o and Zach Lomax. The centre pairing, Stephen Crichton and Latrell Mitchell comes in for Suali'i, who was there in game 1. The halves pairing is Jerome Luai and Mitchell Moses comes in for Nico Hines. Front row of Jake Trbojevic, Payne Haas and Reece Robson at hooker. edge back rows, Liam Martin, Angus Crichton. Cam Murray comes in at lock. The bench the bench in full is Connor Watson comes in for a debut. Isaiah Yeo, Haumole Olakawatu, Spencer Leniu, Mitch Barnett, Cam McInnes, and Luke Keary.
Yeah, not a bad side. It's kind of what we talked about. We said we kind of thought Moses would come in and Latrell would come in. So, yeah, happy to see Mitch Barnett's gone up a couple of spots. I think he's done more than enough to be in the 17, but I understand Cam Murray's back as a big in. I think if Cam Murray didn't make it, like if he hadn't come back from injury, I think you'd see Barnett in the 17. But yeah, I think it's well deserved for Barnett to get in there, and I think that's a pretty good team, to be honest. I'm more confident in that team being competitive than I was the week before, or the last Origin, I should say.
Yeah, because the last result, just to remind people, was 10 to 38, so New South Wales 10, Maroons 38. And I'm looking at the TAB, and the odds they've got for next Wednesday is $1.90 for both teams. It's even.
Yeah.
And to me, after a 10 to 38 loss, to suddenly be back on even pegging with the TAB, that seems a bit strange to me. Or do you understand what's going on there?
Well, they
no red card this time, hopefully.
No red card. Yeah, they had a red card. Less than 10 minutes into the game, which I think it would have been a lot closer if that hadn't happened. And a lot of the issues people had with that team last time was Nico Hines in the halves. He's not there anymore. So I think people are a bit more confident that this team will turn up. I still think Queensland are going to go 3-0, but I'm sure Richard differs on that opinion. But yeah,
definitely.
So
it's not easy to sweep.
And we'll talk about it a bit more next week when our show is the pre-match for it, basically. So we'll move on to signings. There was only one big one. There was a couple of extensions, but Damien Cook has effectively signed a 2-year deal to join the Dragons from 2025. There's been no official announcement since the show started, at least, from the Dragons to announce it, but he's apparently told his teammates this week of his decision to leave, and it's all over everywhere but the actual official news. We talked about it a bit this week in the old chat, and I said it's not a bad signing for the Dragons, to be honest. It's going to be interesting to see what the Rabbitohs do now to fill that hole, because we all kind of assumed Jeremy Marshall-King might follow Bennett there, but as we announced last week, he's extended with the Dolphins. So I don't know who the Rabbits will be looking at, but a solid, experienced player that could probably find a new lease of life away from the bad juju at the Rabbits at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's quite a handy pickup for the Dragons, having someone of Cook's experience, and he still plays with a lot of pace as well. Some people slow down once they hit those early to mid 30s, but Cook seems to still have quite a bit of zip about him.
Beach sprinters never slow down.
Yeah, true. He's got that beach sprinter in him. But yeah, I think it's quite good. I don't know what South is going to do. Maybe don't fork out on Jack de Belin and go hooker hunting, but yeah.
Yeah, and then the extension. So yeah, Jeremy Marshall-King, he's extended into at least the end of 2028 with the Dolphins. The Warriors extended Mitchell Barnett until the end of 2027, which I thought was fantastic. And then Nathan Brown, the player, has extended until the end of 2026 with the Sea Eagles. So I think all three of those are good extensions. Good. Nathan Brown's probably at the back end of it. He's kind of a fill-in there, but Jeremy Marshall-King's been a key player for the Dolphins, and Mitch Barnett, we've talked at length about how he's turned his career around and the short time he's been with the Warriors. There were rumours, I don't know if we mentioned it on the show, but there were rumours at the start of the year that Barnett was one of a couple of Australians that were a bit on on the fence about if they wanted to stick around in New Zealand or not. So the fact that he's playing well, he's finally got a selection for Origin this year, two games in a row. So it's good to see he's enjoying his time over here, I'll say. But yeah, any thoughts on those three guys, Matt?
Yeah, they're all good extensions, but just from obviously from a Warriors point of view, Mitch Barnett re-signing's just fantastic news. I'm glad that those rumours, I don't know how much truth there were to them, but I'm glad to see he's come out and put pen to paper to stay. He's clearly good form and winning a representative jumper. Does a lot for your, or does a lot for making you happy in your environment. So long may it continue.
Yeah. Well, that's always in the background, the stigma for some Australians coming to the Warriors in New Zealand is that your Origin career is over. It was really a lot of the ones that were getting the Origin were guys that were in Origin teams, like your Capewell in this scenario. But to be able to come here and be in contention, earn your first pick over here, maybe that relieves a bit of that pressure and background noise. But we hear it every year, don't we? Australians aren't happy here. Hell, in real life, New Zealanders aren't happy in New Zealand either and want to go to Australia. So it's not a big surprise, is it? But great to see him stick around. So unless you got any more thoughts on the extensions, we can move on to injuries if you like.
No, that's all good. Move on.
Right. There were a stack, but I've just kind of picked the big ones. So Sea Eagles have 3. So Ruben Garrick is out this week due to failing his HIA. Taniela Paseka is out due to a thumb fracture and requires surgery. There hasn't been an estimated return date yet. And then Toff Sipley is out for some time. No date was given, but he's re-injured an MCL. So some big losses there for Manly. Unfortunately, any thoughts on poor Manly and their poor injuries at the moment?
Nah, it's just part of the game. Look what the Warriors went through. I'm sure. I've got no sympathy for Manly. I've got sympathy for the players. They'll get through it.
You might care about this one a bit more. Rocco Berry from the Warriors injured his shoulder and is awaiting scans, but will miss this week. Yeah, I know a lot of people were saying, like, when they watched the game that he had re-injured his hand, but you may have picked it up where he got hurt is not far from where we sit normally. So he was not too far from me, and it was definitely his shoulder, and he definitely was in a lot of pain. He was not a happy chappy. So hopefully he doesn't miss too much time. Probably spoilers for when we talk about the team later. Probably the right time for a certain former fullback to be ready to go. But yeah, disappointing for Rocco. I thought he had been getting back into some form for the Warriors too. And then lastly, Tom Starling from the Raiders will miss this week after failing an HIA. There were a handful more, but these were the main ones. Anything else you want to add to it, mate?
Get well soon, lads.
Right, so we'll go to Naughty Boys. We've got 3 this week. For the Eels, we've got Kalma Tuolangi, grade 3 dangerous contact for one of the best try tackles we've seen in some time. He got a 5-week ban.
Wasn't pretty.
Wasn't pretty at all. I don't want to say lucky. He also got injured, and he requires surgery, and they reckon he's going to be out for 6 to 7 weeks. So it came at the right time to get banned for 5 weeks when you're going to be out for 7 with an injury anyway. So good for him, but yeah, bad tackle. I'm happy with that. Jordan Ricky got a grade 2 dangerous contact and is out for 2 weeks, which means he's going to miss the Warriors game next week, which is good for us. And then Dallin from the Warriors has grade 2 careless high tackle. Not a lot of impact, but a lot of carelessness for sure. He got a week ban. What do you reckon on Ricky and Dallin? You happy?
Um, Not a lot of impact from Dallin. Not a lot of brain power used as well. I just thought it was silly. Yeah, Ricky, I think he was just lining someone up and they didn't get the ball. So
Yeah,
I think it's fair getting the 2 week ban because probably a little bit of shoulder in head there.
yeah.
And he copped the 10 minutes as well. So yeah, Dallin's one. I think a 1 week ban's fair. It didn't cause any significant injury. It was just silly.
Yeah, I saw worse ones in last weekend that got fines.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm happy with a week. He shouldn't have done what he did. Uh, it was crazy. I can laugh at it now, but I wasn't laughing on the day.
no,
Um,
me neither.
but yeah, so that's it. So we may as well jump into the round, mate. So
Yeah,
round 15 started on Thursday, where the Dolphins started. They killed our multi game one, which Paul was
so often
probably that's
happens.
why Paul's come back because he wants some money out of us for how much we've lost him. But the Dolphins defeated the Sharks 30-28.
Yeah, good game. This was 5 tries apiece. For the Sharks, Royce Hunt, Braden Nakora, Ronaldo Mulitalo, William Kennedy, and Sione Katoa. For the Dolphins, Max Plath was first try scorer. Herbie Farmworth, Jack Bostock, Jake Avarillo, and Hamiso Tabuai Fido with a spectacular try. Both teams 4 from 5 conversions, just one penalty goal for Osako.
Which proved to be the difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Dolphins started quick and had the edge at halftime. They were leading 22-12 at halftime, led pretty much all the stats. And despite the Sharks fighting back, they never lost their nerve. Fantastic try from Hammer, as you just said, and Osako's boot proving the difference. Massive effort from the backs with big nights from Hammer and Farmworth. I've been impressed with the Dolphins this year, and they continue to defy my expectations. But they'd be disappointed that they let the Sharks score in that final minute and almost force golden point. That would be like the sticking point. Very happy to get the win, but be like at 22-12, we probably should have run away with it. But a win's a win at the moment with how the NRL is.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very happy. I keep waiting for them to drop off, and they don't seem to be doing it. So. Your thoughts on the Dolphins?
Yeah, I mean, not even 22-12. I mean, it was 22-0
Yeah,
after the first 25 minutes. So incredible start from them. Their playmakers were dominating, laying on 4 tries early. But like you said, they took the foot off the throat and allowed the Sharks to make a game of it in the end. And as it turns out, a missed sideline conversion on the siren from Nico Hines meant that the Dolphins held on for the win.
yeah. And your thoughts on the Sharks?
Yeah, they seemingly got off the bus late for the game. They were completely out enthused at the start of the game, but then they flicked a switch and looked really good to come back into the game. So yeah, it'll just be disappointing that they gave up such a big start that they weren't able to come back from. So it was a disappointing loss at home for the Sharks.
Yeah, they were hurt by their slow start. It's probably not the first time we're going to mention it in this round about one team starting quick, the other team being very slow. Happened in a few games, but I thought they did show courage to get back into the contest, and they just kept plugging away. Their forwards did struggle, I think, in the middle, which didn't help unlock the backs. But they scored a nice try in the final minute and had that chance to go to extra time, but Hines' bad luck continued with a dreadful conversion attempt. Was shocking. I haven't seen like a clutch kick go so wrong. Yeah, the wobbles are definitely back for the Sharks. You know, I kind of thought they were over it and they were back on track of trying to be a premiership team. It's another one they let go. Your player, this was the one game you didn't fill out on the notes of your player.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you forgot or if you just picked the same guy.
Oh, I had the person in my head. No, I actually in the first half I had Cody Nikorima penciled in because I thought he's just had his hand in every try and was looking amazing. After they buttoned off, I was tempted to take him away, but I'll keep him there. I thought his first half was outstanding and really helped lay the platform for that 22-0 lead.
Yeah, and see, now with Paul back, you guys are just going to hear the fantasy scores because I didn't bother to do that while he was away. Brennan Nakora led with 73 and Herbie Farnworth was top for the Dolphins. I actually went with Hammer. I feel like I'm stuck in a rut with the Dolphins. Whenever they play well, I just go to him. But that last try he got just left an impression with me. And he's just such an X factor for them. And I think a big key to what's led to them being as good as they are this year. So I went with him. But I think Cody has really found a new lease of life. In Redcliffe, which he didn't have when he was in Redcliffe for another team. But
he's another one that likes Wayne Bennett, eh?
Yeah. So we'll move on to the first game on Friday. I'm continuing my misery with my picks. The Cowboys defeating the Raiders 34-16. The one game we had different in our picks and in our multi for Paul. So.
Yeah, I managed to get the right one here. 6 tries to 3 here for the Cowboys. Kyle Felt, Hylam Lukey, Jeremiah Nanai, Kyle Felt had a second, Valentine Holmes and Reese Robson. For the Raiders, Jordan Rapana, Xavier Savage and Elliot Whitehead were the try scorers.
Yeah, dominant display from the inconsistent Cowboys. This game was essentially over at halftime, 22-0. Big turnaround from the team we saw lose to the Warriors. Their forwards worked hard, and the backs put a lot of pressure on the Raiders.
The last game was 22-0 at one point, and that ended up being a 2-point game.
Yeah, it's going to happen a lot this week, Paul. But the backs put a lot of pressure on the Raiders, and they defended their hearts out, which I think was the biggest thing. They were just defending. They missed a lot of first up tackles, but they scrambled well and just really tried to choke the Raiders out. A great performance, I thought, really, and with the chance to get their first bye, which is unbelievable that we're in this round and they finally get a bye when some teams have had two. But anyway, they can hopefully address the inconsistencies that that's been plaguing their season and work on getting into the 8 because they're still not far off. Your take on the Cowboys?
A week is a long time in rugby league, and so it proved. The Cowboys went from awful last week to looking really good in this one, with all their big guns looking dangerous, and to put a score on the Raiders in Canberra, it's nothing to scoff at. So, like you said, Brad, the Cowboys have been inconsistent all year, but this one's a really good result. Yeah,
and your take on the Raiders?
It's almost going to be a copy and paste for for a few teams this week, like you said. But terrible first half from the Raiders, and although they did end up scoring 3 second half tries in pretty quick succession, they were almost by that point consolation tries. They weren't really ever realistically in the contest.
Yeah, they're another slow starter, and they struggled with their handling and discipline, which kept them on the back foot. They started to get into the groove in the second half in that little stage between the 50th and 70th minute where they got a few tries in, but they just struggled to build pressure against the Cowboys' defense. Another disappointing loss at home for the Canberra Raiders and need to bounce back. And Ruse in the comments and said only slightly offside. Remember, there was a comment from Sticky after the game complaining about the officiating of the game and said that, Danny Levi, one of the times he got pinged for being offside, said he was only half a foot?
Yeah.
Said he was only half a foot offside. It's like, well, an inch or a mile, offside's offside. Your player to stand out, we've got Ruben Cotter led the fantasy points. Who'd you go with?
I didn't go with Cotter, although he would have been a good shout. Drinkwater.
Yeah, I went with Drinkwater too. It was interesting. I watched Bloke in a Bar, and they were a bit down on Drinkwater, thinking he didn't really play that well. So they see it in a different lens than me. I thought he was fantastic again. He's just really good at helping direct the play. And, thought it was another great game. And him being quiet the week before was a big reason why the Warriors were able to run away.
Yeah.
And yeah, Simon said the ball handling was quite bad for the Raiders. And yeah, Paul's looked and said, yeah, Drinkwater led the run meters for the Cowboys. I think he might have been up there for line breaks too, or at least line break assists. I did look at some of the stats.
Yeah, he topped line breaks with 1 line break, so I didn't really think that was a big stat to pull out.
It's 1 more line break than me, Paul. So yeah, we'll move on to the final game on Friday. The Rabbits defeating the Broncos 22-12.
I did enjoy this one. 4 tries to 2 for the Rabbitohs. Damien Cook, Keon Kalormatangi, Latrell Mitchell, and Alex Johnston, who I believe he kicked clear of Billy Slater with that try, didn't he?
I think so.
Moved into outright second on the all-time try scorers. 2 tries for the Broncos, both Dean Mariner late in the game.
Yeah, and before we move on, there's a comment from Jacko about the last game. He said Cowboys were offside on goal line D a lot. Should have been a bin or two. Happened in a few games. It makes me sound like a whinger, but I thought the Storm were doing the same in the Warriors game and just getting 6 against them instead of a sin bin.
Yeah.
And I thought they were really going to crack down on that this year, but it seems to not be the case.
They were also living in the ruck all game.
Yeah,
but we can whinge about that.
We can whinge about that in a couple of games. But yeah, I know I picked the Broncos here, but I had a feeling that Souths would get the points, which is why I put money on them, which was my only saving grace in the weekend, was that I put money on the Rabbits as the underdogs. But they reduced their errors in this game. When they do that, they actually start to look like a good footy team, which is what I've said. I feel like the last 3 seasons with them. Latrell had a big game with Origin just around the corner. There wasn't really anything flash from the Rabbits, but they just played a solid game plan with big moments. They've definitely appeared to turn a corner, but they need to work on that discipline. 2 sin bins is still not a good look. Paul said 3-game winning streak for the Rabbits, changing coaches. You see, yeah. I still don't think their coach was that bad, but it's working, I guess, for them now. And they got Bennett coming in. I think Bennett will be more than a decent enough coach to try to help them. But your take on the Rabbits?
Yeah, they showed again they're on the improve. Latrell looked interested again with the carrot of the Origin jumper up for grabs. I thought he looked great again this week, and Souths always look far better when he's on song. You mentioned the discipline. I can see Richie Kennar's sin bin. Latrell Mitchell's one I did not really agree with. I think he's just run in to stick up for his teammate who got a shoulder to the schnoz when he didn't even have the ball.
Yeah.
It's not like he threw a punch. He sort of just grabbed a collar. I wasn't too chuffed about that sin bin ruling.
Oh mate, they give sin bins for getting hit by a ball now as well. You gotta remember that still.
True. That's true.
Your take on the Broncos? Yeah,
I think the Broncos again this week looked a shadow of the team they were last year. How they would love to have Reynolds back. Life without him's much harder, as you can understand. They showed a complete lack of respect for the ball in this game. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but
it's all right. I got them.
I think Cobbo must have dropped at least 4, 5, or 6 on his own. But yeah, 2 late tries to Dean Mariner saved them from any further embarrassment. But it wasn't a great outing for the Broncos.
No, they as you just mentioned, they caught the Rabbitohs dropsy bug. They had 18 errors come full time. And without Reynolds and Reece Walsh, they just lacked that attacking direction that made them so dangerous last year. And even in the moments where they lost Reynolds to injury last year, they still had Walsh. And then when Origin happened, Reynolds came back. So there was always one of them around. And I think they need at least one of those 2 if they want to look competitive. They struggled to defend the Rabbitohs' big names. And yeah, as you already said, it's been a rough campaign for Brisbane this year, with many expecting them to build on last year's form. And but I do expect them to start to build again and start to climb the ladder once that spine's intact. But until that, when did they say Reynolds is back? Reynolds is still a couple of weeks away, isn't he? I think it's at least like a month.
Didn't he rupture his biceps? So it going to be more towards the end of the season.
More towards the back end of the season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they could be in a lot of trouble by that point. But yeah, your player, I think we picked the same guy.
Yeah, I went Latrell. I thought he's
greatest player in the world if you listen to his interview.
Yeah, people just hate on him because,
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, he does get a lot of hate, but he does bring a little bit of it on himself. But when he switched on, which he was this week, he's really good.
Yeah,
and I think come Origin time, playing centre suits him even more, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he's a hell of a player when he wants to be. It's just the problem is he doesn't want to be every week. So yeah, but I think we all kind of expected a big game out of him with the chance of playing Origin. So we got what we expected. Next game, the first game on Saturday, the Tigers finally
with the Payne House leading with fantasy points 82, and the highest we've had so far this week, and he only played 59 minutes. Didn't even play the whole game. So I mean, he was definitely putting himself about when he was on the pitch.
He's a monster. He goes all right. So yeah, first game on Saturday, mate. We had the Tigers ending their losing streak, defeating the Titans 18-10.
Yeah, Spoon Bowl. Was 3-2 for the Tigers. Justin Olam with 2 tries and Funor Bole. For the Titans, Jojo Fafita and Jaden Campbell.
Yeah, Tigers did lack a bit of direction without Galvin out there, but they refused to quit, keeping themselves in range at the break. I think they were down by a try at halftime. I think it was 10-6. And then they just made the most of the opportunities they created in that second half. Wasn't the best game from the Tigers, but for where they are right now, they just need wins, which is exactly what they did here. It's probably not going to get the media off their backs, but it's a welcome confidence boost as they look to avoid the spoon. Your take on the Tigers?
Yeah, finally the Tigers pick up a result here, and what's potentially the battle for the spoon. They trailed at half time, but they kept at it, and they were able to pick up a very much needed win at home to break the streak, which was starting to mount.
Yeah, and Jacko's mentioned Uppy's one hell of a player. Yeah, he, I know there was a lot of jokes thrown his way when he signed with them. You can't deny that he's giving his all for that team, and yeah, it's great to see. Hopefully, him and a couple of those other guys next year can actually make some magic. But your take on the Titans?
Yeah, a game the Titans probably should have won on paper, especially going to halftime leading as well. They probably should have gone on, but I think the desperation of the Tigers, they just wanted it more, and it's a result the Titans may come to regret at the end of the year if they're sitting in 17th, but yeah, that just wasn't their day.
Yeah, and the Titans fade is back. Like Paul's already put up, the line breaks. They had 9-2 against the Tigers, and good old Desi came out and basically said they won all the stats, and there's no way they should have lost this game. But the one stat they didn't get was the scoreboard. So, what interesting aspect are you going to bring in, Paul?
Yeah, I was going to say, look, yeah, also that line breaks piece, but then when you're behind on errors, 7-14, and penalties conceded 2-4, it's your own errors and it's your own discipline that's lost this one. You've made the opportunities, you haven't finished them, and then you've given up the ball and not been ill-disciplined.
Yeah. The Titans fade is back. Was closer than many expected in the first half, but they just struggled. To be honest, they struggled without David Fafita. His impact, and they couldn't keep hold of the ball. Plus, that ongoing defensive issue came back to bite them here. We have praised them recently, but this loss could effectively be what seals their wooden spoon fate. They're probably more likely to win more games as the season goes on than the Tigers, but as you said, this could be the difference. unfortunately, they will be looking for a big bounce back again at home against the Warriors this week.
I mean, just so people know how close it is, both teams have played 13 games on 10 points, but the Tigers points difference minus 129, but the Titans point difference minus 131. I mean, it's literally one conversion across the whole season is the difference between these two teams.
Yeah. And Paul's got the fantasy leaders. Keno Kinney led with 85 points, and Stefano topped for the Tigers with 81. Who'd you pick in this game, Matt?
I wrote down the wrong name. I actually wanted to go Utoi Kimanu, like you.
Yeah,
I think
that's who I did as well.
Utoi Kimanu. Yeah, he was a beast, and probably rightfully so, leading the Tigers with fantasy. Yeah, he was very good.
Yeah, he's been great, and it's good to see that all the rumors about him not wanting to be with the Tigers anymore and trying to get out isn't affecting his performance on the field. Hopefully, I'm hoping he sticks around for them. If he doesn't, I know a team in another country that could probably add him to the roster. But it's a fantastic game from him. But we'll move on to the game we don't want to talk about. The Storm defeating the Warriors 38-24.
Yeah, let's get it out of the way. 7 tries to 4 for the Storm. Ali Couture, Grant Anderson, Dean Edemaya, Nick Amini, Sua Falongo had 2, and Xavier Coates. For the Warriors, Adam Pompey, Marcelo Montoya had 2, and Mitch Wynette.
Dreadful start from the Storm. Struggled to combat the Warriors' pressure, but they didn't drop their heads and just took advantage of every chance they were handed by the Warriors or the ref. They're still leaking a lot of points, but that's not as big as of an issue when you're winning. They just played smart football and didn't panic, which is great for Storm fans, but not for me sitting there in the stands. Your take on the Storm?
Yeah, similar to you, mate. I don't think I can ever recall a Storm side starting a match so poorly.
No.
Through errors, ill discipline, they let the Warriors kick out to 14-0. Once they finally got a few opportunities, they seemed to take them all. And I think the difference in the game was down to how well the Storm converted chances into tries. They seemed to get down our end and score, and it just it seemed to knock out confidence.
Your take on the Warriors?
Yeah, on the other side of the coin, great start for us. We look to be rolling up the middle and playing with great intent, with some flair, particularly CNK's around the back assist to Montoya had me out of my chair. Once Storm turned the momentum, however, the Warriors looked really frustrated, especially when calls weren't going their way. And it's another great start to a game at home, which has ended in a loss. And there's been a few, so yeah.
That's my question for you later, spoilers. But as Jago said, they leaked 38 points in 60 minutes of footy. Something's badly amiss. It was an amazing start from the Warriors. I was there with my partner, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then I've got the tinfoil hat on again, Matt. Everyone's blaming the ref and everything. I'm blaming the Warriors' kryptonite, which was they were 14-0 up. Then it just started to rain a little bit, Matt. A little bit of rain. And then that's when everything went to shit. As it's always the case, Paul can attest to it. He was there in probably one of the worst weather games we've had for a while and seeing that the Warriors don't come out to play when it rains. Once that rain started and on the back of some penalties, both legit and dubious.
I just want to point out that I sat through one of the worst weather games, down near the front, not undercover, and I'm still not allowed to come back. And I sat through the whole game.
Yeah.
Surely Paul can go to a game if it's sunny then.
Maybe. I don't know.
Try his luck.
Maybe. Just he can't come with me. I don't want to sit there and try to work out how many losses I've sat in. So, back to where I was. They were still in the hunt in this game, even after leaving the door open, and letting them come back at halftime and be ahead, which I don't think anyone would have predicted. But once those Simbins came in, the game was essentially over. Positive note, they only scored 2 tries while we had those 2 men off. So there's still 5 other tries that they shouldn't have scored when it was 13-13. But I think, as I talked to you before we went on, they showed some promise on both sides of the ball, but they just had issues defending their mistakes, which ultimately proved their undoing. You know, I said it to you, and I think Rue, if he's still watching or not, he said basically anytime there was an error in the Warriors' end or a penalty, either legitimate or not, the Storm just turned that into points straight away. Where every other time the Warriors were driving them back in defense, and that it was just the closer they got to the field, the weaker the defense came, in my eyes. But I'm still confident they're going to make finals, but there's work to do. I think another thing I said to you before we went live, I had 3 games when we talked about it a while back, 3 games that I thought the Warriors may drop left. This was one of them. So it's not a game that I was expecting to win. I was very confident before the game that it was going to happen. But yeah, just unfortunate. The ref did not help matters, but the Warriors lost this game a lot on their own, which may rub some Warriors fans the wrong way. But yeah, Jagger said, for me, game looked over when Katoa put Meany in. Yeah, that line, I don't know how he did that line break. And then there was no one that could stop it. It was that was a moment where I was like, oh no, we're in trouble here. But then straight after halftime, Mitch Barnett got that try, and I was like, oh no, they're still in it. They just need to stop the Storm, but they couldn't. Paul got the stats. Mitch Barnett led with the fantasy points with 68. Jerome Hughes topped for the Storm with 58. Who'd you pick?
I went Jerome Hughes. Always our tormentor. Always one of our tormentors. And again, he had his hand in a lot of tries this week. So
yeah,
and a fair bit of acting too. Great bit of acting to milk a penalty with his kick follow through.
I didn't agree with either Tamati's one or Jerome's one. Tamati straight out kicked Katoa in the face. Thought it was more him attacking the defender, and Hughes kind of did the kick and then jumped into a player that wasn't going to touch him.
Yeah.
So I feel like both of them were unfair.
I don't think Tamati attacked.
Mate, it was straight.
Katoa just ran in blindly into his foot.
It was a big boot, mate. He did a big boot right into his face. But yeah, it was a dodgy call with Hughes, because you could see it was a complete milk. But them's the breaks now with how sensitive it is around the kickers now. But yeah, I didn't go with him. I couldn't do it. I went with Sua. The young little fullback. I thought he was just dangerous whenever he had the ball. Scored a nice double. I laughed a lot. I don't know if my partner's still watching. She could probably attest. I laughed a lot when he scored his first try and did the big dive and winded himself.
I enjoyed that.
I want to see the players that do the big showboaty dive do that to themselves, because it's just silly. But then, he didn't do it on his second try. He learned his lesson. But unfortunate night at the office for us. But hopefully a big bounce back for us this week. So we'll move to the final game on Saturday. The Roosters defeating the Eels 28-18.
5 tries to 3 here for the Roosters. We had Ponga, Jennings, Daniel Tupou with 2, and Angus Crichton. For the Eels, Mitch Moses, Dylan Brown, Blaze Talangi.
Roosters hit the ground running and looked like they were going to put on a cricket score, but they got the wobbles on either side of the halftime break, and they looked like they were going to do a fade like we just watched the Warriors do. But a quick double in the final 20 sealed the win for them. Wasn't pretty, but a much-needed win with their experienced players stepping up. But I still can't figure them out. I don't know if they're just an inconsistent, really good team, or they're just an average team that will occasionally do some magic. Your take on the Roosters?
Yeah, a hot start from the Roosters, jumping out to 16-0 lead. But in what seemed to be the theme of the weekend, they surrendered their lead. They ended up righting the ship and kicking back out late in the match. And I think they were the better team on the day and probably the right result.
Yeah, your take on the Eels?
Yeah, very up and down performance from the Eels. They didn't look in it at the start. Strung three tries together really quickly, but then again, just not enough, not clinical enough to sort of come up with a result. I think for me, it always looked like the Roosters had it under control.
Yeah, the Eels barely fired a shot. They started slow, then spent most of the second half struggling to put sets together. I expected more out of Mitchell Moses with an origin spot on the line. Maybe it was in the back of his head that his only competition was Hines, and Hines had already shanked his opportunity. So maybe he decided to rest it a little bit. But he didn't impress me in this match. Lots to work on for Parramatta, but with Trent Barrett currently at the helm, I'm not convinced that there'll be much improvement this year at least. Your player to stand out. I know we picked different guys this week.
Yeah, I went Angus Crichton, picked up a try. He had his hand in at least another. He's just in such a purple patch right now.
Yeah, and Paul said Will Penasini led with 76 points from the Eels, and Connor Watson topped for the Roosters with 63. I actually went with old James Tedesco. I thought it was an understated performance, but he was a lot of the spark for a lot of their scoring opportunities, which showed that he was really trying to keep that spot in New South Wales. Didn't work out for him, but I thought it was a solid game, and he'll be disappointed not to play for Origin, but I'm sure the Roosters are very happy that they've managed to keep him for this week because they'll need him. Moving on to the second last game, finally one that can put a smile on my face, mate. Manly defeating the Dragons 30-14.
Yeah, 6 tries to 3 for Manly. We had Lehi Hopuari, Haumole Olekuatu, Luke Brooks, Ben Trebojevic, Jake Trebojevic, and Jason Saab. For the Dragons, Jacob Little, Kyle Flanagan, Zach Lomax.
Yeah, it was a solid outing from Manly. Nothing amazing, but just consistent footy with a simple game plan. They weakened the Dragons up front and then capitalised on the holes they created. Had a few missed opportunities and were lucky to get that early try that we talked about in the news. But they also missed a few opportunities. But the fact of the matter is they nailed most of them, which is all you need when you want to get those wins in the NRL. I know Dragons will be disappointed about that try that shouldn't have been, but it was early enough in the contest where it didn't affect the end result, in my opinion. But your take on Manly? Unless Paul wants to talk first. Yeah.
No, I was going to say that this, when you think that they scored 8 points in the first half and 22 in the second, this is a win for the coaches doing good changing tactics at halftime because this coaches sort of this is a coach's win rather than the players' win in my book because that turned around at halftime.
I don't know. It's Anthony Seibold and he can't coach someone to pick their nose. So I don't know. I think it was just lucky. But yeah, your take on Manly, mate.
Yeah, Manly were able to avenge their loss to the Dragons earlier in the season here. I thought in front of their home crowd they were able to score some nice tries regularly throughout the match and always looked a step or two ahead of the Dragons in this one.
Yeah, Dragons fell back to earth this week after last week's big win, but another team with no respect for the ball, and they just struggled to find any space to attack Manly, and their defensive line was out of sorts. Again, more in the vein of what I expected from them this year, as they look to just be, simply hanging on and doing the best they could. They have the bye this week, and we'll be hoping that their Origin players return injury-free, as they're going to need them if they wish to get back into the winner's circle. Dale Cherry Evans led with 76 points in fantasy. Who'd you pick?
Cherry Evans went with fantasy.
So did I.
Very good.
Yeah, we just copied fantasy. Thought he was great. It's going to be they're probably very lucky they got the bye because I think they'd struggle without him, as we've seen so many other teams do. So we'll move to the last game of the round. The Panthers defeating the Knights 26-18.
Yeah, 5-3 here. Scott Sorensen, Brian To'o, Jerome Luai, Lindsay Smith, and Dylan Edwards were the try scorers for the Panthers. For the Knights, Fletcher Sharp, Dylan Lucas, Bradman Best.
Yeah, before I talk about the Panthers, what about old Fletcher Sharp? They just find a new fullback and they score straight away. They did it with Armstrong as well.
I don't know how they do it. He scored last week as well, so he's just coming to the side and he's scored in consecutive weeks. And the try he scored here to open up the game was a cracker.
Yeah, but back to the winners of the game, the Panthers. It was a typical Panthers performance. I feel dirty writing it all the time because it seems like it's so lazy. But it was a lot of pressure by their forwards up the middle, which created the opportunities for the big name backs. A few question marks around their defense, I think, to allow the Knights to score some soft tries towards the middle of the second half. But ultimately, it was just a solid Panthers win that we expect almost every week. Your thoughts on the Panthers?
Yeah, I thought it was a cracking first half from the Panthers, who all but put the game out of reach enough by half time. They conceded first, but from then on, I thought Jerome Luai was at his mercurial best, creating plenty of chances, which were converted into points. They did slow in the second half. That'll be a concern. But they had enough in the tank to defend the comeback from the Knights and pick up a good win away from home.
Yeah, like Paul said, Panthers dominated the stats and controlled the ball. Yeah, which is what you expect out of them. Fortunate for Panthers fans, unfortunate for everyone else. But your take on the Knights?
Yeah, we already spoke about it, but in my notes I'd written down it was a really great try to Fletcher Sharp to open the match. Showed some real pace and ability to beat the defence. After that, though, they were dominated in the first half. I did like the fight they showed to make a game of it. But yeah, in the end, not enough. And as happens so often against the Panthers, you need to go for that full 80 if you want to pick up the points.
Yeah. The Knights, they just lacked that attacking spark needed to crack the Panthers' defence for the majority of the game. They let the Panthers score some easy tries, which added to the pressure. They did show fight in the second half with those two tries in quick succession, but they just couldn't convert it into more points. And another disappointing loss at home, which unfortunately is a bit of a track record for some of the teams this round. We've got Brian To'o led with 66 fantasy points. And Paul, your 2 cents, please.
Yeah, I was going to say that the Panthers had 56% possession, which meant that the Knights had to do a lot of defending. And you have to constantly run up, run back, run up, run back. And that they just wore them out in that kind of sense. You've got, there's 7 minutes more possession. And you don't have to be running forward, running backwards on attack. You can get yourself into place. Yeah, it's less taxing. And they just wore them down.
Yeah, and Brian To'o led with 66 points in fantasy. Who'd you pick?
I actually went Luai. I thought Luai looked really good. He had his hand in a number of the Panthers tries, and that pretty much had the ball on a string in that first half.
Yeah, I went with Dylan Edwards. I thought Dylan Edwards needed a good game to show that, he deserves that spot in Origin, and I think he delivered. Scored a nice try. He was a key figure with Jerome and getting that attack going. He does all the little things that a lot of people don't expect your big attacking stars to do. So I thought it was a very solid performance from him and a well-deserved return to Origin. But yeah, Jerome, if Jerome can play like he's been playing without Cleary for the Tigers next year, I have a little bit more faith in the Tigers being a middle of the table team, which may sound like a slap in the face, but compared to what they've been, that's fantastic. Yeah. But so that was the round, and it was abysmal for me in the tipping, which we'll talk about in the tipping. I'm not sure if Paul's bringing the tips or the ladder up first. See him scurrying around in the background at the moment. We've got him under pressure now, Richie. He's talking, but I can't hear him, so he's freaking out. So there we go. Honestly, he has 2 weeks off, and he just drops everything. So Simon's top of the tips now. He got 4 out of 8 in the weekend. The top score was done by Lena NZ and Shuddy FC, both with 5 points. Shuddy FC's gone up to second. Rocking Horse Road's up to third. I've plummeted to fourth, Matt, with my 3 out of 8. ACT Hellcats at fifth, and you've moved up to sixth. Bjorn, who I don't think's here tonight, but he is seventh. Still a lot in it. Simon's leading with 82, and you at sixth are on 76, and I'm only 2 points behind in the middle of that. So we're still in contention. I'm just very upset to drop as far as I did.
Yeah, fair. Still top 4, Brad.
I want to win it. I haven't lost a tipping comp since the standoff started, so I need to win
against me.
I know, but you only can play who you're playing against, mate. Maybe next year we'll bring it back to just you and me, you and me and Simon. So if we can bring up the ladder, Paul, not say to vote, honestly, just don't know what he's doing. I stole top 8 2 weeks in a row, mate. So you take it.
Oh, righto. Okay, so Melbourne are in first place. Penrith have moved up to second. The Sharks have dropped to third. Dolphins remain in fourth. Roosters have moved up to fifth. Bulldogs have moved up to sixth. They're going really well. Canberra dropped down to seventh, and Manly move into eighth spot.
Yeah, and then the rest of the teams, Brisbane have dropped out of the 8th. They're now in 9th. Cowboys have moved up to 10th. Dragons moved down to 11th. Warriors moved down to 12th. Newcastle has stayed at 13. Rabbits have moved up to 14. Parramatta dropped down to 15. Tigers have moved up to 16, which means our new wooden spoon for now are the Gold Coast Titans.
But it's tight at the bottom there. 3 teams on 10 points at the bottom. And the Rabbits
it's tight in the middle as well.
But with obviously the Rabbits on a 3-game winning streak, I probably expect them to pull away from the other 3. But yeah, really
if the Rabbits keep going, I ruled them out last week. But if the Rabbits keep going the way they're going, they could still be a top 8 team. 12 points, bottom 8, 17 is 8th right now. They're not that far away if they keep nailing wins. As I mentioned to you, mate, the Warriors need to win this week because a lot of the teams around them have a bye, so they're getting 2 points. So a loss for the Warriors this week will see them go even further down, which they don't want or need. But yeah, I've moved my notepad and I've got Paul's top 8 here, and I'm looking at the current top 8 and his top 8, and it's not great, Paul. I'm not going to lie. I haven't got ours up, so I know mine are probably just as bad. But
mine's way off.
Yeah, I think looking at that, I didn't have the Dolphins, I didn't have the Raiders, I didn't have the Dogs. So 3 of the top 8 I didn't have in there at all. But yeah, we'll move on to questions. Did we have any questions, or did we do what we've been doing the last fortnight and answer them all as we go?
I think we chat about the stuff as we went.
Yeah, all right. We'll go with your one to me first, Matt, because I think yours is quicker.
Okay. I've seen rumours online circling about Dylan Brown wanting to come to the Warriors. Would you be a fan of that signing? And how does he fit into our team? And does anybody make way to accommodate him?
I wouldn't say no for the right price, but I think the reason we haven't talked about it in the news section is because I just don't believe them at all. I feel like at best, somewhere his manager's trying to get him out to get a deal somewhere else and not here. I think it's the Steve Maddai approach that used to happen with Manly every couple of years. where Steve Maddai was going to become a Warrior and it upped his price with Manly. I don't think the Warriors would be thinking about it. I think I said to you and Ruin Hammer during the week, I would believe it more if Tamati Martin hadn't have played how he did the last month. Going like, Sean hasn't extended yet. Are we going to trust Tamati to be the guy leading the backs? He's been playing well, so I think they'll be like, no, I don't think we're going to get any more from Dylan Brown than what we're going to get from Tamati. We may as well keep what we've got, especially when you got Chanel and Luke Metcalf around. As Jacko said, he'd cost mega money. He'd be asking for a lot of money, which they could use in other spots. I'd hate to see it be a situation where they sign Dylan Brown on big money and then some of these young guys that have shown promise are the ones that get cut to make the room financially. As we're kind of seeing with the Broncos, there's rumors a lot of their players are going to miss out because they're trying to sign Reece Walsh and Selwyn Cobbo on big money. I don't want to see they pick up Dylan Brown, who at best for the Eels is inconsistent. And then you hear that we're going to lose like a Jacob Laban or Zion or Sifikula. One of those guys might be one that they have to chop off to keep him because he'd be asking for more money than what Sean's getting. So it's not like Sean retiring gives you the money for Dylan Brown. That's not how it's going to work. If he came really cheap, I wouldn't say no, but I'm more than comfortable. If Sean hangs up the boots at the end of the year, I'm more than comfortable with Tamati and Chanel or Tamati and Luke being the team, being the halves next year with what we're seeing from Tamati. Admittedly, only in a month. I thought I saw enough to trust him to take over if required. But what about you?
I'm a fan of his as a player, but it all comes back to the dollar signs and how it would balance your salary cap. He's not the kind of player I would blow your salary cap on because, kind of like what Jacko said in the comments, you take away a really good organising half away from him, and it negates him somewhat. He's this support player, kind of like how I see Luke Metcalf, a great foil to Sean because he's a deadly runner. Dylan Brown's that same thing, deadly runner. He's a really good defender, but for the price that you're going to pay for him, you want to throw those dollars at people who are going to win you games, not a foil.
You want to throw it at a Jerome Hughes, not a Dylan Brown.
Yeah. So would I like him in the team? Yeah, I'd take him, but probably not for the money we'd have to pay to get him. So, and
he ain't coming here on a pay cut.
The cost, no.
Yeah. No. So I pass on him for now. But my question for you, mate, it might be a bit tricky because I don't even have an answer for this. I don't think. This week's game was yet another home loss for the Warriors after surrendering a decent lead. Do you have any ideas why they're struggling at Mount Smart this season? I've got the stats here. They are 4-3 at home, which doesn't sound that bad. But 2 of those wins are in Christchurch and Brisbane. So at Mount Smart, they've got a 2-3 record.
I'm not 100% sure what the answer is there. I don't even know if it's the case of where they're playing. I'm not sure. It's just, I think when you look at our home games, we've just had some quite difficult home games. We played the Sharks in round 1, the Storm the week just gone.
Titans on Anzac Day.
Wow. Yeah. No,
that one hurt.
That's not... That hurt. That shouldn't have been a hard game. So, yeah, I don't know, mate. I think our roster's chopped and changed a fair bit throughout the season with injury. So we've ended up suffering some bad losses here and there, and I think it would have happened whether we were home or away. So, after those 3 wins in a row, we look to have our confidence back. I'm hoping the weekend just gone was just putting it down till we played the best team in the league at the moment. leading the league, and it's just a blip in the radar, and we pick up where we left off before that match.
Yeah, and I know Paul's probably going to bring up the away stats, which aren't that great either. I think it's 2-3.
No, I was going to go back to last season and say what were last season's stats.
I think we lost one game at Mount Smart, and that was the one you were at.
Because like I said, last year the home record was 8-4.
Yeah,
which is the exact same as the away record, 8-4.
Yeah, but then they had that one too. They lost at Magic Round, which counted as a home game. They lost at Napier, which counted as a home game.
Yeah.
So 2 of those losses weren't at Mount Smart. But yeah, so they had 2 losses at Mount Smart. One you went to, which is your fault. And then I can't remember who the other loss at home was at Mount Smart, because I went to every New Zealand game last year, so it's hard.
The one you and Paul went to was the Rabbitohs one, right?
Rabbitohs, yeah. I don't know. It'll be one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if it's maybe the occasion. Like they're getting sellout crowds at every game. I don't know if it's the big occasion affecting them, but then at Magic Round, which is, the biggest crowd you're going to get, they were amazing. So it could just, I don't know. I'm more concerned with the games at home where they're building these good leads and then falling apart.
Yeah.
Which has happened. I think the weekend's game was the 4th where that has happened. So yeah, I don't know. I was hoping you would have the answer. I'm just the dumb prop. I don't know nothing.
Yeah, I wish I knew the answer. Then I'd stop wanting to break my TV when it happens. Do something about it.
So we'll leave that for a big question mark, and hopefully someone smarter than us has an answer at some point. And Paul's run away again. So we're going into the next round. Let's see how quick I can do this, mate. I'm going to see. He's back now. Paul, if you can bring up the teams. I know you keep jumping off, but he's coming back quicker than I'd probably do it. So we've got the team list for the Warriors Titans, which is in Gold Coast on Saturday, 5 p.m. New Zealand time. I don't remember the place. Sorry, but the Ruin Hammer and Warrior Nation that are organised to get together from fans that are over in the Gold Coast before the game. I can't remember the bar. If you go to their Facebook pages, you'll see it though. And I think the Warriors have organised for Australian members, like a members meet and greet after the game. So if you're a paying member, I think you've got to enroll. So it may be too late at this point. I'm not sure, but it's always a cracker going to the Gold Coast. It always seems like it's a home game over there, mate. But if you want to read out the Warriors team, and we'll discuss it.
Gladly. Fullback, Chance Nickel-Klustar keeps his spot. Ed Cossey's come in on one wing. Marcelo Montoya retains his spot on the other wing. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck returns from injury in the centres. And Adam Pompey is named as the other centre. Halves, Tamaiti Martin, Sean Johnson. Forward pack, Whanua Blake, Wade Egan, Jackson Ford. Moratani Akore, Dylan Walker is in at 12 as Mitch Barnett is in Origin camp with the Blues. Tohu Harris is the lock. Interchange bench, Chanel Harris-Tavita, Jacob Laban, Jazz Tevanga, and Tom Ale.
Yeah, now it's interesting. I know we don't go into the extended, but there's a bit of confusion around the Warriors at the moment because one of the Warriors pitchers for the team, they had Lecker named on their extended bench, but on the NRL website and everywhere else, it's got Sifakula instead. And in their little article, they talked about Lecker being named on the extended and potentially being able to make his debut. So I'm not sure who to trust. I've just gone with the NRL website right now. Well, what do you think of the team? It's pretty close to what I predicted in my review this week. I said we'd either see Cossey on the wing or Roger would go to the wing with Graham Tolfa coming into the centres. And Dylan Walker at second row surprised me. I thought we'd see Ford go down to second row and like a Jazz or a Tom come into the front row to replace him. But I don't mind the team. I think Ed Cossey's the one that's got the biggest worries for me with how his form's been, but I'm hoping he can bounce back. But what do you think of the 17?
Yeah, given suspension, injury, and origin selections, I think it's probably as good a lineup as we could have pieced together. It keeps a lot of the pieces of the puzzle, like the forward pack. I feel like they were going quite well. Jackson Ford in the front row, I like. Near Corey, I like out wider. Dylan Walker, he shifted out to centre for a period last week, and I think he actually looked quite decent out wide. He looked like he almost had the outside break a few times, so moving him out a bit wider, I can live with that too.
I think he's going to play well wherever they put him. That's just his mentality at the moment. Jacko said he's got an awful feeling about this game. Titans out of finals chance, so they can play with freedom, attack from anywhere. We can handle their forwards, but their backs have speed and forwards directing play. And Cossey's as a surprise because he isn't playing well in Cup and he's not fast. That is their biggest issue. We'll talk about their team soon. They've just got pace, and we don't really have pace in that back line to combat it. It's going to be hard. I'm still picking a Warriors win. I know we usually say who we're picking after we've announced the Titans, but you can say who you're picking too if you like.
Yeah, I'm tipping Warriors. Surely. These guys just lost to the Tigers. Surely. We said that on Anzac Day too, though. So, like Jacko, I'm apprehensive. I'm always apprehensive against the Titans because we don't...
Yeah. Whether they're first or last, they can always beat you. It's just when it comes to the Warriors.
They've given us the spooks quite a few times in recent seasons, so I'm picking us, but not with any great deal of confidence.
Yeah, and Jacko also said he was hoping Webster would take a chance with a surprise like Setu or Pasikala just for this game. I thought Setu too might have got a shot because he has pace. But yeah, we'll go into the Titans game. Titans team, I should say. So fullback, we've got Keno Kinney. On the wings, we've got Khan Pereira and Jojo Fafita. Centres, we've got Brian Kelly and Philip Sami. Halves, we've got Jaden Campbell and Kieran Foran. Front row, we've got Keenan Palacia, Chris Randall and Josiah Palhulu. Second row, David Fafita and Bo Fumore. And then lock, we've got Aaron Clark. And then the bench, we've got Sam Verrills, Isaac Liu, Isaac Fa'asuamalawi, and Joe Stimson. So not a bad side for what they got. Lots of pace. David Fafita is always a threat. We saw it on Anzac Day. Once he came on the field, he kind of changed the tone of the game and put the Warriors to their sword. Ken Mamalo on the extended bench, mate. And Tanner Boyd. But I'm still sticking with the Warriors. I think in front of that home crowd, the Warriors are going to go well. We'll see if we hear the Warriors chants in the stadium again like we did last year. And then the booing anytime the Titans announcer came out trying to get the Titans fans up. Jacko said Hassel will have his ears burning from sprays all week after last week's display. Expect a hell of a fight. And they should get the job done, the Warriors, but I will not be surprised if we lose this game. Yeah, I know it's always, as we just said, it's always a risk, but yeah, I'm sticking with the Warriors. So we'll go with the rest of the round, short round, which means our show will only be 3 hours next week. Or it'll probably be quick, actually. Paul wasn't here for the last Origin game where we kind of got out of here in an hour because we're trying to get everyone to watch Origin instead of having to watch us. But Friday night, mate, we got the Dolphins Storm. I've gone with the Storm. I think the Dolphins are playing well, but without the Origin players, I think they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
So you Storm as well?
Yeah.
We've both picked the Warriors on the first game on Saturday. Then we've got Roosters Doggies. I've gone with Roosters. Basically the same thing. Roosters have got Tedesco playing because he's not playing Origin. So I'm sticking with them.
I'm going to go Roosters, but I think the Bulldogs will put up a real fight.
Yeah, and then the last game on Saturday is Rabbits, Seagulls.
The Bulldogs 6-0 at home, 1-6 away. So look, they're away from home. you pick against the Dogs.
Yeah, Rabbits, Eagles. I've gone with the Rabbits. I know they don't have Latrell in that, but DCE to Vojevic and all that. There's a lot of outs for Manly, plus the injuries they had with Ruben Garrick in that. So I think the Rabbits will get this one.
Yeah, me too.
Last game, Tigers, Raiders. I've gone with Raiders. Yeah, I think the Raiders aren't going to lose twice, and I don't know if the Tigers can go and win 2 in a row.
I'll jump on the Tigers, just so we're not having a full house multi.
Yeah, it always panics Paul when we've got a full round of multi. So it's only a 4-game multi.
Don't worry, no, the multi panics me every week, whatever you say.
It's usually going on the first game anyway, so it takes pressure off. And Bjorn said, surely you're putting a tenner on the Warriors 13 plus. I listened to Richie and I did the the special TABs that you went on last week, the Searle one. Yeah. I did his one last week where it was Warriors to win by any margin, and either Adam Pompey or Mitch Barnett, I think, to score. So I put my money on that one, and then Adam Pompey got the first try, and I was like, Brad's got a winner here, and then no, it was all gone.
Oh no!
But yeah, so I don't know. I haven't come to a decision on if there's a bet this week or not. So yeah, that's it for the NRL. Jacko will probably want to gap it now before we go into the Super League. But if you're going, goodbye. Let's jump into Super League, mate. So St. Helens and Wigan sit at the top of the ladder on 22 points, with St. Helens first with better points differential. London are still dead last, and they've got a points differential of negative 422. So in comparison, the worst points differential in the NRL is the Titans in 17th place, as Paul mentioned earlier, on negative 131. So a bit of a difference between the worst and the worst. But yeah, it was an interesting round 14 over there. Salford defeated Warrington 25-14. Wigan just narrowly beat Castleford 10-8. Hull KR defeated Uddersfield 32-6. Hull FC defeated Leeds 18-10. Lee defeated Catalans 10-2. And then London, adding to that negative 422, they lost to St. Helens 52-6. So another big blowout there. This week, Castleford are playing Hull KR. Wigan are playing London, so expect probably another big one there. Leeds are playing Lee. Hull FC playing Warrington. Catalans versus Huddersfield, and then Salford St. Helens. Anything you want to add about Super League? I know we don't talk about it as much now because we can't actually bloody watch it, unless we're paying extra money on top of Sky and whatnot.
Which I can't.
No. It's hard to pay that money and then watch something at 3 a.m.
Yeah, I just have to live with my YouTube highlights, mate.
Yeah. So yeah, anything else you want to add before we let everyone go?
No, we can let everyone go. I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. Hope to see you guys back next week, and we'll build up for Origin next week.
Yeah, sure. It'll be a quick-paced one next week, which I don't know if Paul's ever witnessed in person. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in tonight and joining us on Stand Off with Brad and Richie. For your weekly update on Rugby League, tune into our show next week at 8 p.m. here on Facebook or YouTube, or at your convenience on iHeartRadio or Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Thanks again, Paul, for returning and helping us out in the back. And cheers again for joining me, Richie. And good night, everyone.
Cheers.